Have you ever had the feeling that something was influencing you, but you didn't know what it was? As if bad thoughts came out of nowhere, or a deep sadness invaded for no reason? If so, it could be that you are starting to see something that has been hidden from the majority, the activity of the ARCHONS. The chosen ones are not special people in the traditional sense. They are those who awaken, who begin to question what they feel, think, and live. And according to ancient teachings, it was Jesus who showed how to see what is behind the veil, not with the eyes of the soul, but with physical eyes, in everyday reality. This vision has nothing to do with religion or exaggerated mysticism. It has to do with perception. The ARCHONS act in hiding because they know their power lies in invisibility. When you see them, the game changes. And that's what Jesus taught the chosen ones, how to break free from silent control and reclaim command over their own mind and energy. If you feel like you're seeing beyond the obvious, or if you want to awaken this ability to perceive what has always been there, this video is for you. We're going to talk about the technique, what the Gnostic tradition said about it, and why it was hidden for so long. If this topic makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel right now. Here, we share what has been silenced. Welcome. Have you ever noticed how certain negative thoughts appear out of nowhere, as if you were doing fine, and suddenly felt fear, anger, insecurity, or discouragement without explanation? Well, many of the chosen ones begin to awaken exactly like this, by realizing that something inside them is not theirs. The ancients called these influences ARCHONS, but what are they? ARCHONS are forces that act invisibly. They are not in front of you, but they are close enough to affect your mind, your emotions, and even your body. They connect to you through frequencies, energetic vibrations that are beyond common perception. Most people don't even notice, but the chosen ones, they feel, and over time, they learn to see. And what do they fear the most? Being seen. Why is their greatest fear being seen? Because as long as you don't notice them, they can act freely. They influence your thoughts, provoke internal conflicts, feed heavy feelings, all without being noticed. It's as if you were being manipulated by invisible strings, and you believe that everything is coming from you. But the moment you see an ARCHON, even if only subtly, a shadow, a movement out of the corner of your eye, a distortion in the air, something changes. You realize that it is not you. And just that realization already cuts off much of the power these entities have over your life. Jesus taught this. He showed the chosen ones that the physical eyes can be trained to see what was hidden. It's not about clairvoyance, deep meditation, or altered states. It's about attention and practice. ARCHONS exist at the edge of our normal vision, but our sight is more powerful than we've been taught. Science recognizes that the human eye can only see a small band of the light spectrum, between ultraviolet and infrared. But that doesn't mean what's outside of that range doesn't exist. And it's exactly in that outside the norm where ARCHONS operate. They live between dimensions, hidden in frequencies close to ours, but still invisible to most. However, Jesus, according to Gnostic texts that were excluded from the traditional Bible, taught that it was possible to see the ARCHONS with open eyes, in waking life, in the ordinary world. This idea was censored because it placed the power to perceive and be free in people's hands, without needing religious intermediaries. Seeing these entities doesn't require superpowers. It requires awareness, practice, and a desire to know what's truly around you. And that is exactly what the ARCHONS fear, that you awaken. Because when a chosen one begins to see, they also begin to protect themselves. The manipulation no longer works the same way. If you've ever felt like you were being watched, noticed subtle movements that no one else sees, or feel changes in the environment without explanation. It could be that your eyes are beginning to open. And if they are, don't be afraid. You're not going crazy. You're waking up. Among the ancient texts found in Nag Hammadi, which were not included in the Bible, is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. In this text, there's a surprising passage. Mary recounts that she passed through 7 levels of spiritual reality, and at each level, an archon tried to stop her. A disciple asks, "How did you see these beings?" And she replies, "Jesus taught us to see with our physical eyes." That answer was considered dangerous. But why? Because it suggests that we don't need mediators to see what is affecting us. We don't need authorities telling us what is or isn't real. Jesus didn't teach only about heaven or salvation. He taught how to see the invisible here on earth, that which acts upon our mind and soul every day. To see with physical eyes means to train your attention to notice what was previously ignored. It means to perceive what operates on the edges of our visual field. Jesus taught the chosen ones to do this because he knew the power of the archons is not in strength, but in secrecy. Secrecy is their weapon. The light of awareness is their weakness. The technique that Jesus is said to have taught was simple. Expand your gaze, soften your focus, and observe your peripheral vision. Instead of looking directly at something, the chosen one learns to relax the eyes and watch what appears in the corner of vision. Because it's there that these entities are first perceived. Many chosen ones report experiences like this. They are alone in a room in low light, and they see a dark shape move. When they try to look directly, it disappears. But with practice, they learn not to react with direct vision, but to maintain a soft focus, and then they can see more clearly. These reports are repeated all over the world. Awakened, sensitive people begin to see dark forms, like shadows or distortions in the air, that move with intention, and they all describe the same phenomenon. When the entity realizes it has been seen, it retreats. That is the key. Jesus didn't teach the chosen ones to fight with words, but to overcome through awakened awareness. To see, to recognize, not to deny what is there. Because the greatest fear of the archons is not to be confronted. It is to be noticed. They survive in distraction, in automation, in uncontrolled emotion. When the eyes awaken, control breaks. Have you ever wondered why we can't see certain things? Even with all the technology, our natural vision remains limited to a small spectrum of light. We only see a narrow band of reality, as if we've been wearing an invisible blindfold since birth. This limitation is no accident. It was carefully designed to keep us within a safe range. In Gnostic texts, the demiurge is described as the architect of this world. He is said to have shaped matter and physical bodies, imposing limits on our senses. The goal would be to prevent humans from perceiving what moves behind the visible reality. The eyes were adjusted to see only what is necessary, what interests the control system, leaving out what could set us free. The archons, who operate in frequencies adjacent to ours, take advantage of this limitation. They remain invisible because they know their influence only works when they're not perceived. They don't need to physically hide. It's enough that human eyes remain blind to the kind of presence they represent. Invisibility, for them, is power. It's the foundation of everything they can do. They don't enter your life by force, but through gaps. They infiltrate your thoughts, emotions, and impulses. And since you don't see them, you believe it all comes from you. The guilt, the fear, the unexplained exhaustion, the sudden sadness, all of it seems like part of your own mind. But when you see the archon behind it, something essential changes inside you. Vision, in this case, is more than a sense. It is liberation. Jesus, according to the texts the church tried to erase, knew this. He taught that physical sight could be trained to reach beyond the veil. It wasn't about supernatural gifts, but about recovering something that already existed, but had been suppressed since birth. A kind of natural sight that was deactivated. The brain, upon receiving visual stimuli, interprets and filters what it considers relevant. This means that much of what you don't see is actually being captured, but automatically discarded. The image may reach the retina, but not your consciousness. This mental filter is what the Archons rely on most to keep acting unnoticed. But here is the key. This filter is not final. It is moldable, trainable, and can be recalibrated. When the Chosen One begins to train their gaze to see beyond the surface, the brain starts processing information it once ignored. With practice, what once seemed like a shadow or impression begins to be seen as a real presence, and once that presence is recognized, it can no longer hide. Most awakened people report that the first sign comes through peripheral vision. A strange movement, a misshapen figure, a smudge in the air. And when they try to look directly, it disappears. This happens because central vision is still under the filter, while peripheral vision is more sensitive to subtle changes. That's why the training starts at the edge, at the margin of sight. These manifestations are not random. They intensify when the Chosen One is emotionally vulnerable. Fear, anger, guilt, and desire are portals that ease the approach of the Archons, and they know this. That's why they come closer in these moments. They connect to the person's energy field and provoke thoughts and feelings that reinforce this emotional state, creating a vicious cycle of manipulation. But when the Chosen One truly sees, the game changes. The instant you see an Archon connecting to your field, it realizes it's been seen. And what was once a powerful influence becomes an uncomfortable, exposed, vulnerable presence. Because unlike what's often said, true protection doesn't come from fleeing, but from recognizing what's trying to dominate you. The Chosen Ones are not those who have more faith. They are those who have more awareness. Seeing is the first step in breaking the illusion of separation. And when you realize that what seemed like yours, the pain, the guilt, the sabotaging thought, is not yours, but from another that hides, you take back control of your own mind. The way we see the world is trained from early on. As children, we learn to look with focus, seeking sharpness, clarity, and direction. But to see the Archons, what Jesus taught was exactly the opposite. He spoke of a kind of vision that doesn't strain, doesn't search, doesn't focus. A calm, receptive gaze that allows seeing without trying to see. This practice is called soft gaze, and it begins with a change of posture toward one's own perception. Instead of trying to hunt for hidden presences, the Chosen One learns to simply observe the environment gently. It's not a meditation, nor a trance. It's being awake, with eyes open, but without forcing vision, just allowing perception to happen. The first step is to prepare the environment, a space with dim lighting, neither completely dark nor overly bright, tends to be ideal. The low light creates contrast, and it's in this contrast that Archons are most visible. Neutral walls, few visual stimuli, and no direct distractions help to concentrate attention. The Chosen One sits comfortably, facing a clear space, and softens the gaze. This type of gaze has no fixed point. It's broad, diffuse, as if you were looking through things, not directly at them. Your eyes relax. There's no muscle tension, no expectation. The focus moves from the center and spreads to the edges. That's when peripheral vision begins to work. And it's through it that the first contact usually occurs. Peripheral vision is more sensitive to movement, subtle lights, and distortions. It has access to a broader frequency range then central vision. That's why many report seeing something out of the corner of the eye. A dark shape, a strange glow, a ripple in the air. And when they turn their head to look directly, it vanishes. This is the central vision filter in action. The secret is not to try to see directly. When you notice something strange at the edge of vision, keep looking softly. Don't chase it. Allow it to stay there. Over time, the brain starts recognizing that it's constant, not imagination. And the once rigid filter begins to loosen. It's at that moment that the Archon appears more clearly. They don't appear as monsters or perfect figures. They appear as subtle distortions, like dense fog, a shadow with depth, a misshapen glow that moves consciously. It's not something frightening. It's just strange. And the most impactful moment is when you realize that the presence reacts to your attention. It moves away, shifts position, or simply disappears. That reaction is the clearest sign that what you're seeing is real. Mental images don't hide, but conscious presences do. When the Archon realizes it's been seen, it backs off. Not because you're physically stronger, but because your awakened consciousness breaks the cycle of manipulation. You're no longer on autopilot. You're awake. The practice should be daily, for at least 7 to 10 minutes. And the more you repeat it, the clearer it becomes. It's not about perfect vision. It's about recognizing, about feeling the presence with open eyes. Once you see, that ability doesn't go away. The eyes learn. And the brain stops filtering what was once denied. The most important thing is that you are not invoking anything. You're not calling entities. You're simply removing the veil that was hiding what has always been present. Your attention is the key, and your gaze, trained with softness, becomes the portal to liberation. Because seeing is understanding, and understanding is the beginning of the Chosen One's freedom. Seeing what was hidden changes everything. The moment the eyes capture the presence of something that once seemed like just a strange feeling, perception is transformed. The Chosen One no longer walks in the dark. They begin to understand that many emotions, thoughts, and impulses don't arise out of nowhere. They have an external and directed origin. The first visual contacts with the Archons are often unsettling. They don't appear with fixed forms. Some appear as dense shadows with their own movements. Others resemble heat waves in the air, distorting the space around them. Some manifest as faceless humanoid silhouettes, just presence. The form may vary, but the feeling is always the same. Something is watching you. It's common that, upon seeing them for the first time, the Chosen One doubts themselves. The mind tries to rationalize. Was it a reflection, eye fatigue, an illusion? But this doubt quickly vanishes when the Archon reacts to being seen. It moves, pulls back, or recoils as if it's been caught. This response confirms the reality of the vision, and that's when the dynamic completely changes. Before, the Chosen One was the target of invisible influences. Now, they become a conscious observer. And when there is conscious observation, manipulation weakens. The presence of attention already cuts much of the energy that feeds these beings. They feed on emotional unconsciousness, a scattered mind, the fear that seems to come from nowhere. Upon perceiving the presence of an Archon connected to a sabotaging thought or heavy emotion, the Chosen One begins to separate what is theirs from what is manipulated. That clarity brings freedom. Anger ceases to be automatic. Fear loses its strength. Discouragement begins to be recognized as an attack, not a personal failure. That is real spiritual power. An interesting phenomenon reported by many awakened individuals is that after seeing an Archon, the physical body also reacts. Some feel chills, others feel sudden heat, as if energy is being withdrawn. There are cases where the Archon tries to resist, but the gaze of the Chosen One, calm and steady, dissolves the presence. Not through aggression, but through awareness. Environments also change. The house feels lighter, the corners less oppressive. The place where there was once a constant feeling of heaviness now becomes neutral. That's because constant observation acts as a kind of energetic cleansing. Archons don't stay where they are seen. They need anonymity to survive. The light of your gaze drives away the invisible predator. That's why it's common for the Chosen One to begin seeing Archons in places they never imagined. Hospitals, churches, government buildings, schools, places of high emotional traffic. They're wherever there is intense emotional energy, especially if it's negative. But now, with awakened eyes, the Chosen One is no longer a victim. They are an active presence in the midst of the invisible. When a Chosen One begins to see beyond their own reality, something inevitable happens. They start to see the Archons connected to other people. This can be painful, because you realize how much those you love, and even strangers, are being manipulated without realizing it. It's like watching someone being controlled by strings they can't see and not being able to cut those strings for them. The situation becomes more evident in ordinary conversations. Someone says something aggressive or irrational, and the Chosen One, with trained eyes, clearly sees the Archon vibrating, reinforcing that speech. The person believes that the thought or behavior is theirs, but the Chosen One sees that it was implanted, subtly induced by something external. This brings a new kind of responsibility. The Chosen One is not there to confront or point fingers. They understand that most people are still asleep, unaware of these influences. They also know that if they try to alert someone who's unprepared, they will be called crazy, exaggerated, or too mystical. That's why silence becomes part of the awakening. Not out of fear, but out of respect. But there is something they can do. Keep their own light on. By maintaining a state of awareness, by continuing to see and not be deceived by appearances, they become a point of stability. Archons avoid conscious people because they know their disguise doesn't work there. And this awakened presence can indeed positively influence the surrounding environment. In homes, for example, the Chosen One starts to notice the points where entities anchor themselves. Dark corners, mirrors, windows, doors. With simple observation and the conscious declaration, "I see you. You have no power here." Many report that these presences disappear, not because they were forcibly expelled, but because they lost the energetic field needed to remain. Seeing Archons connected to loved ones is difficult, but it helps the Chosen One not to take everything personally. They understand that certain behaviors, once painful, have origins beyond the person's own awareness. That brings compassion, and it also protects their own field, because they no longer get emotionally involved like before. They observe, understand, and remain centered. The most important thing to remember is this: to see is not to judge, it's to liberate. When the Chosen One sees clearly, they not only protect themselves, but also become a living example of awareness. They show with their own energy that it's possible to live awake, alert, present, and that there is a real way out of invisible control. All it takes is to look with truth. The Archons have never feared your strength, your faith, or your intelligence. What they truly fear is your awakened consciousness, the exact moment when you stop merely feeling and start seeing. Because while you're just feeling, there is still doubt. While you perceive but don't identify, there is still room for manipulation. But when your eyes see clearly, there is no more room for control. Invisibility is the Archon's main tool. They act in silence, in emotional cracks, in mental noise. They don't need to approach with violence because they've learned to operate subtly. They influence thoughts, generate impulses, create emotional states that feel like you. And that is precisely why seeing changes everything. Because the moment you identify the external origin, you separate what is you from what is not. To see is an act of clarity. It doesn't require dogma, religion, or mysticism. It requires presence, practice, and courage. Because looking at what has always been there, but has been denied for a lifetime, is uncomfortable. But it is in that discomfort that the true power of the Chosen One is born. They don't just perceive. They witness with open eyes the truth behind appearances. That vision is yours by right. It has been suppressed for generations, censored by institutions, ridiculed by systems that depend on collective blindness. But it remains alive. And every chosen one who decides to train their gaze, who learns to soften their vision and observe what moves beyond the visible, reclaims what was hidden from them since birth. The ARCHONS cannot stand being observed. They do not feed on your conscious pain. They need confusion, internal chaos, raw emotion that arises without understanding. But when you see, everything is revealed. What once seemed like an attack becomes a pattern. What once seemed like weakness becomes an alarm. What once drained your energy now loses access to your field. If you have already seen or have started to see, declare it. Not as a shout to the world, but as an affirmation to yourself. I see them. Write this in the comments. Simple, clear, without fear. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to confirm within yourself that your vision has been restored. And from this point forward, their control is over.